Okay, greetings once again, guys, and welcome to another awesome edition by iCampSA. In this edition, we are answering a very important question, which is a famous trig identity, that is sin² of x plus cos² of x equals 1. Why is this equal to 1, and how did we come about to this here? And as a starting point, what I'm going to do is to quickly remind you of a couple of things. So let's go ahead and say remember. Okay. The first thing that I need you to remember, it is your Pythagoras theorem. So let's have a look at what I need you to remember about the Pythagoras theorem. So I'm just going to quickly draw a right angle triangle like that. There we go. And then we are going to label the sides. Okay. So what I'm going to have is I'm going to have side A. Then I'm going to have B. Then I'm going to have C. And I'm going to make this to be a right angled triangle. What Pythagoras says is that the value of C, remember what is happening here. So C is what you call your hypotenuse. And then what I'm going to have is I'm going to have one of the angles being X, and then have the other one, which is Y. And then if we are looking from X, if we are standing here in position X, then the B here becomes our adjacent side. So if we are standing from X, B becomes our adjacent side, okay? And if still we are standing from X, if you look carefully, A becomes our opposite side, because if you observe carefully, A is opposite X. Then if we change now and we look from Y, if you look from Y, if we look at A, you will see that if we are looking from Y, our A is going to be our adjacent side, okay? And still looking from Y, if you look opposite Y, you will see B. So that means B is our opposite. Okay. This is very important for you to understand in general when you are dealing with trig ratios. And what Pythagoras says is that the hypotenuse squared will always be the adjacent side squared plus the opposite side squared. That is what the theorem states. So what does this mean? It means that our C² will always be given by A² plus B². Nothing deep. This is what Pythagoras says. Okay. But then let's have a look at some trig ratios now. Okay. And for the most part, the trig ratios that you need to know fundamentally, there are 3. And then others, we will make a combination of the 3. So you need to know a trig ratio that is called a sine. And for most of the time, this will be referred to as sin. Then you need to know another one, which is called cosine. And for the most part, this will be called cos. Then another one will be called tangent, but it is usually shortened to tan. Okay. And when you think of sine, I need you to think of opposite over hypotenuse. Okay. And when you think of cos, I need you to think of adjacent over the hypotenuse. Okay. Then when you think of tan, I need you to think of the opposite side divided by the adjacent side. This is very important because it brings us to something that is very important, which is called SOHCAHTOA. So it is SOH and then CAH and then TOA. What does this mean? This one here speaks to tan. So what it says is that tan is equal to opposite over adjacent. And then this component here speaks to cos. Okay? It speaks to cos. What about cos? Cos is simply equal to our adjacent over our hypotenuse. And then the last part speaks to our sine. So if you look carefully, this means that our sine is simply our opposite over our hypotenuse. Very important. So now remember what we are required to prove. We are required to prove that if you have sin² of x plus cos² of x, this will always be equal to 1. How can we go ahead and prove this? What I'm going to do is I'm going to use trig ratios. So if you look at this triangle here, you will see that sine of x is simply equal to, sine is opposite, so it becomes a over c, which is our hypotenuse. Okay? And then what we further know is that cos of x is equal to, if you observe carefully, b divided by c. Okay, so what we are now going to do is to focus on the left hand side. So if you look at the left hand side, we have a sine x, and remember that is squared, and then plus a cos x, and that is squared. What does this mean? Sine x we found as a divided by c, so we square it, plus cos x is b divided by c, then we square that. Okay, so we are just gonna go and simplify what we have there. If you look carefully, it becomes a squared over c squared plus b squared over c squared. You should be able to see that we have a common denominator here. So we have a squared plus c squared, a squared plus b squared divided by c squared. Okay, but there's something that we need to remember that is very important. Remember what Pythagoras says. Pythagoras told us that. So I need you to remember that Pythagoras said a squared plus b squared equals c squared. So what does this mean? It means we already have this numerator that we are looking at here. So what we are looking at here, we already have what it's equal to. Okay? So this means that what we have there is a squared plus b squared divided by c squared just becomes c squared divided by c squared, which becomes 1. So we have shown that indeed sin² of sin²x plus cos²x equals 1. So now you have an idea of where this identity comes from, which is sin²x plus cos² equaling 1. This identity will always be true as long as this angle and this angle is the same. If the angles are the same, this identity will always hold. So I hope this does make sense, and it explains this identity that you've been forever using, and some of you had no idea where it comes from. I hope that this short lesson here does help and you guys become more comfortable with this concept. Cheers for now. See you on the next one.